In 48 games since cutting his hair, Vlad Jr. is now batting .387 with 18 homers, 50 RBI, and an OPS over 1,200. That'll do. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Thursday, August 15th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we had some rough pitcher outings. Bryan WOOOOO, the opposite end. He was actually really good, and he's been good lately. Waiver wire options. I've got some hitter questions and much more, but let's jump in.
Oh, my goodness. Holy cow. Do you believe it?
All right, Scott, do you believe how bad Mitch Keller was here on Wednesday?
Yeah. I mean, there was a pitcher who was worse, and we'll get to him. But Mitch Keller was bad, for sure. He gave up 8 earned runs in 5 innings at the Padres, and this was just to start after giving up 7 earned runs in 4 innings against the Dodgers. So 15 earned runs in his last 2 starts. And it's funny because I was just thinking about how, all the grief I got this preseason, if you take out these 4 terrible starts Mitch Keller had last year, his ERA would have been in the low 3s. I was thinking about that recently, and oh, look, Mitch Keller has a 3.20 ERA. Who was right? I was right. Aha. Well, now his ERA is 3.95 after those 2 starts. So the second half is going about like his second half went last year with these just dreadfully awful starts. What do we take from it, though? Well, you could say that in this start, where he gave 8 earned runs to the Padres, his sinker was down 2.3 miles per hour. Everything else was down like a mile per hour and a half. But in that previous start where he gave up 7 earned runs against the Dodgers, all the velocities were up. So I think it's just typical Mitch Keller weirdness. We see velocity fluctuate from him a lot with him. We see pitch selection fluctuate a lot with him. We see performance fluctuate a lot with him. His quote after the game was, "Man, it just sucks. It feels like whatever I'm throwing up there right now is getting hit. Try to go back, look it over, see what's working, what's not working, and why it's happening, and just be better about it." Which I know is not like a lot of concrete information there, but that's probably his whole process normally, right? Like he just reviews what went wrong, and then he changes a bunch of things, and a lot of times it works. So I don't know that there's anything to take from this start for Mitch Keller. I just think it's the cost of doing business with Mitch Keller, and he lines up for 2 starts next week. If you're in a situation where you need to protect your ERA and WHIP in a categories league, I get it. You probably sit him in that case, but otherwise, if you're chasing wins or strikeouts, or certainly if you're in a points league, you're going to start him.
Yeah, that was the next question. Mitch Keller, 69% started on CBS. He looks like he gets the Reds and at the Rangers next week for those 2 starts. I do think the fact that his velocity was down this much and he got hit hard, it's pretty worrisome, but it's not like this has been a trend or anything. So we'll have to see what the velocity is like in his next outing. But yeah, I do mostly agree with your analysis on where we should or shouldn't start Mitch Keller next week. Chris, over to you, your player of the night.
Yeah, Tanner Houck. That's who we're going to talk about. And look, it's 2 solid results starts in a row. I believe he gave up 1 earned run in his previous start, 2 earned runs over 6 2/3 innings against Texas tonight. So that's great. The process is pretty rotten right now, though. He had 3 strikeouts to 2 walks in 6 2/3 innings. He's always done a good job of limiting hard contact. And so that has kept the floor fairly high for Tanner Houck. But since the start of July, I think we're talking about 7 starts here, he has 22 strikeouts to 21 walks in 39 innings of work. Now, he's managed to remain useful for fantasy despite that. But, man, it feels like the wheels could fall off at any point for Tanner Houck right now. Just you can't survive with a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I don't think that's, going out on a limb here. He's got to be better. And the problem is, I think he's another one of these pitchers who has already gone past last year's total. And I don't know if Tanner Houck's ever really even gotten close to this level. I'll look it up right now and confirm, but he
Yeah, I could tell you. So I just wrote an article earlier this week, 16 pitchers with innings limit concerns, which is you might have trouble finding it on the fantasy news page, but I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. I think it's a pretty valuable research source this time of year. And I assessed the risk level for each of these 16 pitchers. They all have a risk level, but Tanner Houck was among the highest because he came into this start with 140 innings. So I guess he's at, how many was it? 6 innings?
146
6 and 2/3.
2.
146 and 2/3 innings now. Last year it was 114 and 2/3. So he's already basically 40 over that. And his career high prior to this year was only 119. So he is well over his previous high with a month and a half to go. And he's lost his control. At least it hasn't been as sharp lately. So I think there's a good chance, particularly if they fall out of the playoff race. Like Tanner Houck's one of those pitchers who may be looking at a hard shutdown at some point.
Mm-hmm. And I think we are in a similar spot with Tanner Houck as we are with Mitch Keller. Not a must-start pitcher, but looks like he's in line for 2 starts next week as well. He gets the D-backs and the Astros, which
I'll be honest, I have
scary.
a lot more faith in Mitch Keller right now than Tanner Houck. I don't know if I'm alone on that one, but while the result, like I said, the results have not been terrible for Tanner Houck, the process has just been untenable in a way that feels like it's really going to bite him at some point.
That's because Mitch Keller is analysis proof.
Sure.
Well,
that's part, like, I think a big thing, I didn't get to say anything about Mitch Keller, but I think he's just like a big feel guy. And
yeah,
it's one of those things where like he's got so many pitches that it's probably hard to consistently have the feel for all of them. And when something's not working, he finds out, the batters let him know what's not working. And he usually finds a way to tinker his way back from, last year, I think after the All-Star break, it was 5 starts of at least 6 earned runs. In the rest of his like 7 or 8 other starts, he didn't allow more than 3 earned runs. I tend to not actually worry about Mitch Keller when things go wrong, just because it's kind of baked into my mental framework for Mitch Keller at this point.
Mm-hmm. I think this is part of a larger discussion. I don't know if we want to have it right now or if it's something you guys have thought about, but I kind of think the glob is back. Have you felt that way, Scott? Because I was updating my pitcher rankings today, and once you get past the top 30, it just does not feel very good.
I honestly, I think you're being generous with the top 30.
Yeah.
I think it's like 13 or 14 pitchers I feel pretty good about. Maybe 15, maybe 20. But like you get into a range where like Max Fried, I don't feel very good about right now. Carlos Rodon, I feel pretty iffy. Luis Heel, I have no idea. Spencer Schwellenbach looks good, but it's a small sample size. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have Mitch Keller 31st, and looking at the names behind him, I have Robbie Ray 36th. And
oh gosh.
Yeah, the thing is I start dragging down all these pitchers with obvious inning concerns like Houck and Luis Heel, and Garrett Crochet's outside of my top 60 now. And that somebody else has to be pushed up to take their place, and it's not as promising of a group. I'd like to get Schwellenbach up more, but he has major innings concerns. So, yeah, I see your point. It didn't occur to me as I was putting together my rankings, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I have this mini like injury tier, 31, 32, and 33 of Yamamoto, Ranger Suarez, and Jared Jones. And then after that, I didn't know who to start the next tier with. I just like I have Hunter Brown, Seth Lugo, and Kevin Gausman.
And all these names you're mentioning, I feel like really sum up that we're back in the globiness era because I've got Schwellenbach at 32. I've got Keller at 47.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like there's just not much separating any of that range of pitchers.
Yep. Someone who might be transcending the glob, Bryan WOOOO, or should I say Bryan WOOOOO, was awesome at the Tigers. 7 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts. He had 12 whiffs on 85 pitches. 8 of those came on the fastball. He did throw a lot more sweepers and changeups in this start. Neither got many whiffs, but they were effective. He was able to get some called strikes, and the quality of contact against was not bad against the sweeper and the changeup for Bryan WOOOOO here. We know the fastball is his best pitch. It was money in this one again. 8 whiffs, a 32% whiff rate. And Bryan WOOOOO now has quality starts. He has 3 straight quality starts, 2 of which he's gone 7 innings. He's thrown 85 plus pitches in each of his last 3 starts. So I know we were worried for a while there, and rightfully so, because he just wasn't throwing many pitches and he wasn't delivering quality starts. He's been really efficient and really good over his last 3 starts. How do you guys feel about Bryan WOOOOO moving forward?
His longest 3 starts of the year. So I would say he must be feeling pretty good.
In terms of pitch count, he had only had 1 start above 82. His most pitches in a start prior to this one was 85. He matched that today. It was tied for his 3rd most. So I think that kind of gives you the good and the bad side, right? Because if he's not this efficient, he's going to have a lot of 5-inning starts. But he seems to be feeling good. He's working more pitches than just the fastball and sinker into the arsenal. I don't know if anything's ever going to be a consistent swing and miss pitch. It certainly hasn't been so far. But the fastballs are elite. They're really, really good pitches. And so it's enough if he can throw 90 pitches. It's just, I was really skeptical early on because 1, he wasn't getting any strikeouts, and 2, he was seemingly going for an MRI after every start, and he was throwing 68 pitches. So, now he's keeping the results while pitching deeper into games. I think that's the best of Bryan WOOOOO that we've seen so far.
And I wish there were more strikeouts. I mean, strikeouts are the best thing a pitcher can do for himself. But WOOOOO is amazing at everything else, it seems like. He is amazing with control. He gives up a lot of fly balls, which could be a danger, but quality of contact is so poor on those fly balls. So he's great at hit prevention as well as being an excellent control pitcher. So if you're just not putting any base runners on ever, I can live without the strikeouts, and obviously it helps with efficiency too. As you were saying, Chris, I'd still be a little worried that Bryan WOOOOO is just gonna up and disappear on us. But I kind of worry about that with every pitcher this late in the year. So it doesn't seem worth worrying about.
Yeah, Bryan WOOOOO, or as I call him every time I type his name, Bryan Wood.
Me too.
Looks very good.
My finger goes right for that.
Every single. I don't know if I've typed that name correctly once the first time.
Entering the start for Bryan WOOOOO, he had a 2% barrel rate against and a 224.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. His FIP is probably not quite as good as his actual ERA, and I would guess his xFIP is even worse.
Yeah, his xFIP's close to 4.
His xERA entering the start was like dead on. His actual ERA was 2.27.
And the reason xFIP doesn't like him, I think we should ignore it because xFIP treats all fly balls as equal, basically. And I just mentioned they're weak fly balls that WOOOOO gives up.
Just for a little bit of context, because I think it's relevant to Hunter Green that we talked about, and Tanner Houck, I think, falls under this as well. Andrew Abbott. xFIP assumes everyone's homer prevention is relatively the same, or assumes everyone's quality of contact is the same. And xERA is the exact opposite. xERA is tangibly taking into account the quality of contact they're allowing and estimating how many runs they should have allowed. And I think the way to look at it is xERA is a better descriptor of what a pitcher has done and earned. xFIP probably has more predictive value just because quality of contact that pitchers allow is very noisy, and you should expect outliers to regress to league average. That's not always true, but that's if I was projecting Bryan WOOOOO for 2025, I'd probably put the ERA more in the mid threes range.
Well, I'm back to preferring FIP to XFIP myself, because I liked XFIP during the juice ball era where it legitimately seemed like every fly ball was becoming a home run. But now that it's not like that anymore, and I know it's been a good couple months for home runs, but I don't find XFIP to be particularly useful in general right now with the league context.
Again, that was Bryan WOOOOO that we were talking about, and I think you should have a lot of confidence starting him right now. I don't have it ranked this way, but I think I'm probably more confident starting him than either of Mitch Keller or Tanner Houck, at least for the next coming weeks.
I think that's reasonable.
Short term on Bryan WOOOOO. Want to give an oh my goodness gracious shout out to Aaron Judge, who went 2 for 4 with his 43rd home run, and he became the fastest player ever to reach 300 career homers. I believe he's 32 years old, so yeah, it's a little bit older than we'd like in terms of chasing records, but obviously it's been an awesome career so far for Aaron Judge. Want to mention an oh my goodness gracious lineup. How about those Braves, Scotty? Vintage performance here. Put up 13 runs on 11 hits, including 4 homers. Welcome back to Michael Harris, who you were wearing on the shirt. Love to see it. 1 for 5 with a grand slam off Robbie Ray, left on left. You love to see that. First at bat back from the IL. Had 5 RBI total in the game, did Michael Harris. Matt Olson, 2 for 4 with his 21st homer. And last 21 games, he's batting .288 with 8 home runs. Austin Riley, 1 for 4 with his 19th home run. Austin Riley has basically been himself since mid-June. So the last 2 months, .307 batting average, 16 homers, and OPS over 1,000 for Austin Riley. And who did they do all this damage against? I mentioned Robbie Ray. We'll talk about him in just a little bit. Big thanks to everyone watching us live. We appreciate you for being here. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Let's take our first break, and when we return, we'll hit the news and notes right after this.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
News and notes, and it is official. Jazz Chisholm was placed on the IL with a left elbow sprain. He's shut down from baseball activities, and the team is still waiting on other medical opinions to, I guess, figure out where they're going to go from here. For whatever this is worth, John Heyman reported the Yankees are hopeful Jazz will be back in 3 to 4 weeks. I'm not really sure how they can have that information or that optimism as of now, but we'll see where it goes. The team recalled Oswald Peraza, who was on fire over his last 20 games at AAA. Still only 24 years old, a name to watch in the deepest of leagues. But it was actually Oswaldo Cabrera who got the start at third base here on Wednesday. Julio, go ahead.
I don't mean to derail us further, but why has Yankees media not brought up the idea of moving Aaron Judge to first base? I know he took some reps there prior to the season, and they're hurting. They just lost Jazz Chisholm. They have Jason Dominguez waiting in the minors. They can't fit him
really
in their
solve
outfield.
the problem, right?
What's that?
I mean, that would solve the problem of not having Jason Dominguez, but
Right.
they would still have a hole at third.
Yeah, no, I get that, but they're just looking to get another good bat in their lineup, because they lost
honestly,
Jazz Chisholm.
They should just bench Alex Verdugo.
I mean, that they could do that, but Alex Verdugo's better than whoever they're running out there at first base, and yeah. I don't know. I mean, I understand it's a lot to ask of the best player in baseball, but first base isn't that hard. He'd make a huge target over there.
Why, first of all, Ron Washington would have something to say about that. And second of all, I have wondered why, like, Aaron Judge, but really Giancarlo Stanton, hasn't at least tried.
Oh, those hamstrings, Chris. Imagine him trying to stretch at first base.
I don't know, man. Like,
it's not going to work.
There's some pretty stiff first basemen out there.
You know, when I was thinking before the season, just thinking long-term about the Yankees' future, it felt like if they could sign Juan Soto long-term, one of him or Judge is going to wind up at first base. That was just my thinking, because they have Jason Dominguez coming. Before the season, it seemed like, all right, Spencer Jones, there's optimism, although he hasn't had a good season. So
it seemed like it kept Judge healthier too, you know?
Yeah. I don't disagree. Yeah, I think that's probably where things are headed long-term here with Aaron Judge. But I have not seen any rumblings whatsoever regarding him playing first base. Julio Rodriguez left early due to a right ankle injury, the same one that he was just on the IL with. And I was searching Twitter and trying to find any more information on this. It was mostly just a lot of Mariners fans and, Twitter doctors who surmise that Julio Rodriguez is probably not going to be the same for the rest of the season because this is a high ankle sprain. So it feels like this is something he's just going to have to play through, and it's a pain management issue. And he wasn't having a good season before this. So it doesn't feel like it's going to be a very good end to the season here.
I didn't end up moving him up in my rankings at all now that he's back. I didn't drop him that much when he got hurt, but I didn't move him up any with him back.
Yeah, I left him right around my 20th ranked outfielder.
I dropped him a bunch when the injury happened and then did move him back, but I think he's in the 25 range for me, yeah.
Yep. Ketel Marte remained out of the lineup again with that low-grade left ankle sprain. Ronel Blanco was removed from his start Wednesday after getting hit in the left index finger by a comebacker. He did have a really good start before he left. Tyler Glasnow's next start will be pushed back to Saturday against the Cardinals. He was originally slated to start Friday, but they wanted to get Glasnow an extra day of rest. Bruce Bochy said Max Scherzer is feeling really good after receiving a nerve injection. Scherzer is on the IL with right shoulder fatigue. Ronaldo Lopez is tentatively expected to rejoin the Braves rotation on Tuesday next week against the Phillies. Twins manager Rocco Baldelli wouldn't rule out a trip to the IL for Byron Buxton. The MRI on Buxton's hip came back negative, but apparently he is still feeling sore. Nathan Eovaldi has been cleared to start Saturday against the Twins. He suffered a low-grade right oblique strain in his previous start. Ryan Pepio is scheduled to be activated and start Friday against the D-backs. He's been out the past month with an infection in his right knee that he suffered from a bug bite.
Two different players have gone to the IL and been hospitalized with infections in the past month. Because Tyler O'Neill also, which is just weird. Like I don't think there's anything to it. It's just
a bug bite as well for Tyler O'Neill.
I don't think so. I haven't seen any details on it, but remember he was sick and then he had the calf infection. I don't know specifically what it is, but I just thought that was weird.
Jorge Soler was removed Wednesday due to left hamstring tightness. His removal was described as precautionary. I did see an update that he is not expected to play on Thursday. The Rockies placed Elias Diaz on outright waivers. If he goes unclaimed, the Rockies may keep him on the active roster or outright him to AAA. And if that happens, Jacob Stallings will be the team's main catcher. And apparently the Marlins told Sandy Alcantara he will not be traded this offseason, and they expect him to be their opening day starter in 2025. So if you play in any keeper leagues, maybe just check to make sure Sandy Alcantara is not a free agent. You might want to pick him up and stash him heading into next season.
What was his reaction when they told him he won't be traded?
Gosh darn it. I don't know if that was actually his reaction. Let's get into 5-hitter questions. And first up, Vlad Jr. You heard up at the top, I mentioned the numbers since Vlad cut his hair. I don't think there's actually anything to do with the hair, but it's just funny that event happened, and he has just been amazing since then. The overall numbers for Vlad, it's a 323 batting average, 25 homers, 80 RBI, and a 950 OPS. Yesterday, Chris, you said you moved Vlad up to your number one first baseman. So the first question is for Scott.
Well, hold on.
All right.
Sorry.
It's all good.
I'll ask the question.
You ask it.
Have Scott and Frank moved Vlad up to the number one first baseman? Because I'm looking at the rankings right now in the rotisserie scoring format for fantasy baseball. You don't have him number one.
No, I don't. I haven't moved him to number one.
Frank doesn't have him number two.
Whoa.
So why are we putting Scott on
I'm supposed to be answering?
Why does Scott have to get put his hand on the Bible and answer the question? Who are you? I'm the only one who's done it so far.
I haven't done it, but I probably should. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I thought about it in my big rankings update yesterday. It's certainly defensible. I opted not to, just because when in doubt, I usually don't update. Because I think it's kind of my role to be the steady hand when everybody else is reacting to the latest thing happening. And the way I justify it, so I do have Vladimir Guerrero second in Roto. I have him third in points. He's behind just Bryce Harper in Roto, because Harper, of course, is capable of getting very hot and doing exactly what Guerrero's been doing the past couple months, but with some stolen bases, with more runs and RBI, batting in the Phillies lineup. I think over the long run, Vladimir Guerrero doesn't really have anything on Harper. He does have a home run advantage, I think, at this stage of their career over Freddie Freeman, which is why I moved him ahead of Freddie Freeman in Roto. But I kept Freeman ahead in points because walks, basically. Walks and doubles. Freeman still hits a ton of doubles, which aren't rewarded at all in Roto. They are rewarded in points leagues, and also, the walks. So it's and if you look at the head-to-head points per game between the three players, it's closer than you probably think. In fact, Harper may actually have the edge.
I think they're all right at 3.5.
Yeah.
Yep. So the thought process for me and why I'm willing to buy in for Vlad is there was a perception coming into the season specifically that he was just not the type of hitter, for whatever reason, who would live up to his underlying stats. The underlying stats last year were still really, really good, but he way underperformed them. And there were a lot of thoughts about why it was, right? He doesn't pull the ball enough, or his offensive production was inflated in 2021 by the minor league parks they played in. Well, if you actually look at his career, this is now 6 seasons for Vladimir Guerrero. 5 of them, he has played almost exactly to his expected WOBA. This year, it's 413 is his ex-WOBA. His actual WOBA is 400, but he's catching up real quick. Last year's the only year that he underperformed by more than 13 points. And the underlying numbers are, you can't say they're as good as anyone in baseball because like Juan Soto and Aaron Judge exist, but he might be he's probably top 5 in ex-WOBA for the season, I would guess. He's 7th, excuse me. So I just don't see any real reason to doubt the underlying numbers at this point. And so I'm just gonna buy all in on that.
Yeah, I think that's totally defensible. And yeah, I thought about it as well. I probably just should. I think, he's done it for long enough now where, Vlad is definitely in that conversation to be the best first baseman in fantasy baseball. Are these two hitters back? Kind of. Corbin Carroll has been doing some things. 1 for 3 with 2 walks and 2 runs scored. Last 33 games, he's batting .246. Obviously, we want a better batting average, but 9 homers, 33 runs, 6 steals, and an OPS over 900. That's pretty good for Corbin Carroll. And Adolis Garcia, 3 for 5 with a double dong. Last 20 games, a .303 batting average, 3 homers, 3 steals, lots of line drives, hitting the ball hard during the span. What do you guys think? Are Corbin Carroll and Adolis Garcia kind of back?
I think Carroll is kind of back. It's kind of early to say for Adolis Garcia, though I've found Adolis Garcia to be a head scratcher all season because a lot of the underlying numbers look exactly the same as they have the past couple years. So I've been confused why Adolis Garcia has been so absent to begin with. But I actually did it. So you looked up the numbers for Corbin Carroll last 33 games.
Yep.
If you go back more like 60 games, you'll find the same thing. Batting average shy of 250, but OPS in the mid 800s and plenty of extra base hits. And we expected a higher batting average from Corbin Carroll, but batting average is a pretty noisy stat. And I don't know. He's gone a long way to relieving my concerns about his shoulder and whether or not he should be a highly drafted outfielder next year. And I certainly think of Corbin Carroll as must start right now.
Mm-hmm. It is a little weird that he only has 21 steals. He's still 96th percentile sprint speed. I think he's certainly capable of stealing more bases, but Maybe it's just all the home runs he's been hitting recently. Hasn't had an opportunity to run as much. Let's talk about Wyatt Langford, who launched a clutch home run in the 9th inning, 3 for 5 with his 7th home run, added 3 runs and 3 RBI. His previous 27 games before this one, 149 batting average, 1 homer, a 458 OPS. Chris, do you think Wyatt Langford should still be 91% rostered on CBS?
Yeah, I understand. Like, on the merits, probably not, but we've seen enough hot streaks from him where he's justified it. And obviously, I think the talent is still really impressive. I do hope at some point there's this like ongoing, like, oh, these dumb nerds are wrong about Ellie De La Cruz and they were wrong about Fernando Tatis. And then we always like selectively remember which of the like super highly touted rookies actually hit and which ones fall on their faces like Wyatt Langford. And I hope we just add him to the mental model and don't forget that while yes, some of these guys turn into league winners, some of them don't. And Wyatt Langford, while I think deserves to be rostered just on the upside alone, I also think it's reasonable to say we're running out of time to worry about upside. You've got bench spots, and I'd rather use a bench spot on Wyatt Langford than whoever the replacement level outfielder in your league's waiver wire is.
Yeah, I mean, look at how quickly things turned around for Jackson Chourio.
Mm-hmm.
And they could for Langford as well. There have been a couple fake outs
yes,
where we thought, okay, maybe Langford's coming on now, and then it hasn't happened. 27 games prior to this one, he was batting 149, so obviously had been totally useless. Did you give that stat already, Frank? Yeah, you did.
I sure did.
Yeah, well, I'm reinforcing it.
Scott just wants to make sure the people know.
You know, I've been it's the time of year where I'm listening to the fantasy football podcast because I have my draft coming up, and that is the lowest effort way to prepare for my draft. And I notice, you know, I'm usually when I'm listening, I'm driving or I'm doing work around the house or whatever, and I miss a lot of details because my mind tunes out for just a second to focus on whatever I'm doing on. I'm like, oh, what was that? And the more you can repeat things, the better, is all I'm saying, based on my own podcast.
I love that. I love that justification.
Yeah.
Adam Azer's been off the baseball pod for about 5 years, and Scott still listens to him more than he listens to me. How about that? Let's talk about Tyler Fitzgerald, who went 2 for 5 with his 14th home run last 26 games, 330 batting average with 13 homers, 5 steals, and an OPS over 1100. The plate discipline has gotten better during that time, too. 81% zone contact rate. That'll work for Tyler Fitzgerald.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we quantify this, but let's put our hypothetical hats on here. Is Tyler Fitzgerald about to be a league winner? It kind of feels like that.
I mean, it could end any day, you know. It could end any day. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. I'm not saying like cut him and
no, definitely do not do
it. But I don't think he's actually this good. I think eventually major league pitchers will figure out how to pitch to him. They may not figure it out this year, but they probably will next year if they don't figure it out this year. So I don't like being a buzzkill. But I do like being honest, and that's my honest assessment of Tyler Fitzgerald. I don't want to change it just because he had another day with a home run.
Yeah, like I'm trying to figure out like what's the comp here. Like
Zach Geloff.
Yeah, but like Geloff was 23 last year. Yeah, he was 23 years old. He was
a later breakout. Yeah,
a somewhat notable prospect when he got called up. Like Tyler Fitzgerald got called up and nobody like batted an eye. He had been up. This is not like his first taste in the majors or anything. Like Patrick Wisdom in 2021.
I thought Max Muncy with the Dodgers when he first got there.
Sure. Yeah. That's another kind of older.
But he actually became a
but
fantasy
that's
stud.
but like the thing,
There is a possibility Fitzgerald does do that. I understand it's a very low possibility.
that's the problem with the question, is you only remember the really notable ones, and that's going to skew towards the guys who worked out. Whereas like a Joey Meneses, who I know was a couple years older than Fitzgerald, but like Fitzgerald's about to turn 27. Like this is pretty old for what we're for a guy with the lack of experience at the major league level that he has. So there's no way to, like, what he's doing doesn't make sense. You know, like he has a 35% hard hit rate. He has an 88.4 mile per hour average exit velocity. His barrel rate is better than that, but it's like 75th percentile. It's not incredible. Like the underlying numbers are solid. 267 XBA, 485 X slug. Like that would be a really useful player, especially with a little bit of speed. Like that, it's not hard to say Tyler Fitzgerald's a useful player. A league winner, what he's doing right now, it doesn't make any sense. So how can I analyze it? Like it's ineffable. And the rational part of my brain says there's no way he keeps it up, but there should have been no way for him to do this already. So what does it matter that he shouldn't be able to keep it up, right? Like that's the thing I'm struggling with.
Let's get into our final hitter question, and it is regarding Jonathan India. 3 for 5 with a double dong, 4 RBI. His previous 18 games before this, 103 batting average, 3 extra base hits, a 394 OPS, 78% rostered. Is Jonathan India still a must-roster player?
Well, you ask us after he hits 2 home runs. I mean, not in the shallow leagues with no middle infield spot to fill. I think when he's going well, you're perfectly fine to use him there. But obviously, he had been struggling. I won't repeat the number that I'm sure you already said. But you know, if you just look at his year-to-date production in points leagues, Jonathan India is right in that range where you'd consider using him, even in shallower leagues. So
yeah, I'll say the leagues where I have him, I hadn't really considered dropping him.
Okay, fair enough.
He's 12th. He entered today 12th in head-to-head points at
Yeah, I
second
mean,
base.
He's got like a 360 OBP. Like the power's been hit or miss, but it's a useful player. Yeah,
He's lower in my rankings than 12th. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
I moved Tyler Fitzgerald ahead of him. Right, Fitzgerald's eligible at second base.
Yep.
I moved Xavier Edwards ahead of him.
same.
But so yeah, okay. So just is he must roster? No, but he's rosterable.
He's can roster.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Again, that was Jonathan India. Let's take our final break, and when we return, we'll get into some of those rough pitcher outings right after this. Welcome back in. Let's talk some rough pitcher outings. We already spoke about Mitch Keller, but let's talk about Walker Buehler, who was bad again in his return at the Brewers. 3 1/3 innings, 4 runs allowed. Only one of those was earned, but he had 4 walks to 3 strikeouts, only 5 whiffs, only threw 53% of his pitches for strikes. Tyler Anderson, a mixed start. I mean, it's mostly bad because, look, 7 earned runs is bad, but he had 8 strikeouts. He had 19 whiffs on 98 pitches, but obviously the overall line was not great here for Tyler Anderson. And Robbie Ray could not escape the first inning against the Braves. He only recorded 2 outs. He gave up 5 runs, 3 walks, 2 hit by pitches, 1 big hit, which was a grand slam to Michael Harris. Scott, what do we do? Robbie Ray, Tyler Anderson, Walker Buehler.
Okay, well, Walker Buehler, I think we just leave him alone because he does not seem good. And
He's still 81% rostered.
I know.
I have him stashed pretty much everywhere that I had him stashed, but now that he's off the IL and did this and was bad on his It wasn't a rehab stint. His trip to the minors. I think I'm probably going to have to drop him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be totally fine dropping him. I'm surprised he's as rostered as he is. I hope he gets it back at some point. Second Tommy John surgery is hard, and he's shown no signs at all of having much of anything to offer. So I think we can just ignore him. Anderson and Robbie Ray, those are tougher cases. I'd been forecasting the Anderson implosion all season.
Mm-hmm.
But then he started missing a ton more bats. I don't have the updated numbers, but it was first 17 starts, 11% swinging strike rate. The 6 prior to this one, 15% swinging strike rate. Big jump.
It's even higher. He had 19 on 98 pitches today. Yeah.
I see he walked 4 in this one, and I'm like, well, that's not going to happen very often. And you could understand why the start went kind of sideways on Tyler Anderson because of that. So I'm actually going to give him a pass for this and not claim that this is the beginning of the end for Tyler Anderson.
Agreed.
Robbie Ray just
I'm throwing
imploded.
this one out.
When you hit everybody and walk everybody.
It was bad. He was terrible.
It was bad in a way that suggests he's hurt or something. And it was a late game, so we don't have much information about the start yet. But and he has a long history of control problems, but this was next level. This was like Rick Ankiel and the 2000 wild card game levels of wildness.
What's crazy is this is how his first start started against the Dodgers.
Yeah.
That first inning was awful, and then he just settled down.
This
and was
awful?
amazing.
Yeah.
2 hit batters.
I think,
Yeah,
I
I
think,
think
strikeout.
he hit
he had 2 hit batters and 2 walks in that first
Yep, 2
inning. against the
walks.
Dodgers.
A grand slam, another walk, out of the game. Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't. Maybe. Here's the craziest part, though. Like, I'm not dropping Robbie Ray after this start or anything. Like, yeah, he has a history of wildness, and maybe it's just one of those days for him. I don't know. It worries me, though. I'm not just writing it off.
No, I think that's fair.
His next start is against the White Sox.
I'm starting him next week.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I hate that. I hate any other team. I would just sit him and see how it goes. But White Sox, man.
I haven't updated the numbers in a while. Let's see. The White Sox are averaging 3.14 runs per game. You know how the Marlins have a terrible offense? The Marlins are averaging like 0.6 of a run more per game. The Marlins are going to end up scoring like 130 more runs than the White Sox this season.
I mean, the way Xavier Edwards and Jake Berger are going, I'm
Yeah.
not even sure the Marlins offense is that
Jonah
bad right
Bride,
now.
baby.
Yeah, Jonah Bride. We'll get to him in just a bit.
It's stunning. Like, this is the worst offense in a half a century at least. That's not an overstatement.
Yeah.
So
They made Will Warren look like a major league pitcher today.
they've made like everyone except Luis Heel this season look like major league pitcher. Right? That was who started the yeah. That was the first time the White Sox beat anybody by 10 runs this season, by the way. Just gotta dig in.
Heel turn.
Like, I'll start anyone against the White Sox.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to end it. You're starting Robbie Ray next week. Let's get into some waiver wire hitters. And who would you rather have between these two? Kerry Carpenter makes it 2 for 2. He's homered on back-to-back days since coming off the IL. 1 for 4 with his 11th home run. And as we spoke about yesterday, the overall numbers this season are really good. It's just Kerry Carpenter missed a lot of time with injury. And TJ Friedl had a big game, 2 for 4 with a double dong. 19 games since returning from the IL. 258 batting average, 5 home runs, and 858 OPS. Who would you guys rather have, Kerry Carpenter or TJ Friedl?
I'm going to say Friedl by a long shot, actually. I'm not... They don't play Carpenter against lefties.
Yeah, that's
They
the
very
big problem.
consistently sat Kerry Carpenter against lefties.
I kind of feel like they should try, though, because they're so bad.
They should, yeah.
They might now that he's back, right? Like,
The Nationals should try to play Luis Garcia against lefties.
Hey, he did yesterday, I think. He started against the lefty.
Okay, it's one. I'm sure it wasn't the first time he started against lefty, but it's been rare, and it's been rare for Carpenter. So I'm going to take Friedel, who is at least a stud at home.
Yeah, I think Harry Carpenter's a better hitter, but I agree with what you're saying. The lack of playing time against lefties makes it hard to say for sure that you'd rather have.
Yeah, I do like both of them quite a bit, but I would take Friedel as well.
Yeah.
In a shallower league, would you guys drop Wyatt Langford for TJ Friedel?
Yeah.
It would have to be a roto league.
Yeah. I actually moved Friedel one spot ahead of Wyatt Langford. So, yeah, I think in a shallower league, I would be fine with that move. Who would you rather have between these two catchers? Austin Wells continues to hit 3 for 5 with his 9th home run. Last 35 games, he's batting .316 with 7 homers, 25 RBI, and OPS over 900 for Austin Wells. And Joey Bart, 2 for 4 with his 11th home run since the start of July. 31 games for Bart, .287 batting average, 7 homers, hitting the ball hard, has 21 RBI during that stretch. Who do you like more, Chris? Austin Wells, Joey Bart?
They are both top 15 catchers for me. But
yeah, I think I moved Bart up to.
I have Wells 12th.
Yeah,
I have Wells 12th and Bart 14th. So the underlying data for Austin Wells is really strong, and it has been for most of the season. So, he's a more recent top prospect than Joey Bart, although wasn't necessarily viewed quite as highly as Joey Bart at his peak, but that was like 5 years ago now. So, yeah, I have a little more faith in Austin Wells. Love that he's batting cleanup for the Yankees. I really kind of annoyed at how good he is. Like he might mess around and win Rookie of the Year.
Austin Wells?
Yeah, I think he.
Is there nobody else in the American League?
I think he now leads AL rookies in WAR.
Wow.
Yeah,
I would not have guessed that. 260 XBA, 436 X slug for Austin Wells, which is pretty impressive. That's
not bad.
That's about 65th percentile for both.
In a one catcher league, would you drop Francisco Alvarez for either of these catchers, Wells or Bart? Alvarez is ice cold.
I'm not saying yeah to your question. I was saying yeah to him being ice cold. I rank Alvarez ahead of them, and I'm not inclined to change it. If it's a shallow league, I have no problem to just chasing the hot-handed catchers if you don't have a stud there, and I wouldn't consider Alvarez a stud.
In a one-catcher league, yeah, I think you can consider it.
I moved Alvarez down to 13th. I have Austin Wells 14th. So it's really close, and I think it's totally defensible in a one-catcher league if you wanted to do that.
But Austin Wells entering today was 0.3 of a win behind Colton Cowser for the American League lead.
Interesting. Eugenio Suarez continues to hit for power, 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and his 18th home run. He added 5 RBI. The D-backs as a team are just red hot since the All-Star break. Last 33 games for Suarez, 306 batting average, 12 homers, and OPS over 1,000, 63% rostered. Is Suarez behind Caminero and Jake Berger? Because it kind of feels like they're in a similar tier right now.
He is for me, but it's close-ish, I guess. I don't know. I'm having trouble actually ranking Suarez because I think the wheels are going to fall off at some point. He's been really hot, but I think the floor is going to be very, very low when he cools off. I have more faith in Berger, and I'd rather. Gosh, the Caminero one is so tough because in theory he's got more upside, but obviously with what Suarez is doing over the last month plus, I don't think Junior Caminero is going to be better than that. So
but we're ranking him for rest of season, so he doesn't have to be better than what Suarez has been at his absolute hottest. He has to be better than what you think Suarez is going to be going forward. And I put Suarez and Berger in the same category as far as that goes. Like they obviously need to be rostered with how they've performed the past couple months or 6 weeks or so, whatever it is. But this is not them. They will fall off.
I have more faith in Berger than Suarez.
I do have
much
Berger
better
ahead of
last
Suarez,
year.
Yeah.
but only by a couple spots. I have Caminero. I'm looking at it now. I ranked him a lot more aggressively than you guys. So those guys I have around Suarez and Berger. I have around 20th at third base. I have Caminero 14th.
Yeah, I get it if you're chasing the upside. I have Berger at the top of that trio. I have him 19th. I have Caminero at 21, and then I have Suarez at 23. So that's how I'm ranking those three third basemen. One name in deeper leagues, Jonah Bride continues to hit for the Marlins, 2 for 4 with his 5th home run, added 4 RBI. He has started 17 straight games, mostly batting 3rd or 4th in the lineup. And since being recalled on July 4th, 293 batting average, 5 homers, 18 RBI. I brought up the name yesterday. Any interest? I don't know. It's got to be real deep league stuff. 15-team roto, NL only. Jonah Bride.
I do have him in NL only league.
There's almost nothing to suggest that this is real. This is a 28-year-old career journeyman who had put up decent numbers at AAA, but like he's 28 and has played 166 games at AAA in his career. He did nothing in 40 games with the A's last year. He did nothing in 58 games with the A's the year before. So fun story, good for the Marlins, but I like the underlying numbers don't back it up. The track record doesn't back it up. I think he only matters in NL only.
Plus, what I think is eventually going to happen to Jonah Bride is he's going to they're going to call up Davison De Los Santos to play first base and shift Berger back over to third base full time. I think that's how it ends this season.
All right, let's talk some waiver wire pitchers. And the first name up top, Jordan Montgomery, turned in a quality start up against the Rockies. 6 innings, 3 runs, 8 strikeouts, had 22 whiffs on 106 pitches. I think that's mostly just a result of playing the Rockies on the road here. It was his first quality start since June 27th. He does get the Marlins next week. Is there any way you guys would trust is not the right word, but I guess stream Jordan Montgomery against the Marlins next week?
I mean, the thing we've been watching with him is the curveball, right? Like that's the most important pitch, and it was just super loopy earlier in the season. He was getting way too much break on it. It was, I guess, just too easy to see out of the hand. It was tighter in this one, 3 inches less vertical break, got 8 whiffs with it, really good results.
Of 22 total, right?
Yeah, the best he's looked all season for sure. I could see a good start against the Marlins next week, given that it's a 1-start week and there are some 2-start pitchers that we've talked about who I think are a little more interesting. I don't know how much more rostered Jordan Montgomery should be, but I could see him being useful next week. Yeah.
What is he, 65?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to guess he'll be in my 10 sleeper pitchers for next week. Understanding that my 10 sleeper pitchers are basically all bad pitchers.
Well, let's talk about more bad pitchers then. Beat the waiver. What do you got, Chris?
No, I think Martin Perez might be not bad.
I don't know. Let's find out. Beat the waiver wire for any of these 2-star pitchers. We'll find out on tomorrow's podcast if they actually project for 2 starts. But as of now, according to CBS, it looks like these names will have 2 starts next week. And the list includes many names. I've got 6 here. Martin Perez, DJ Hers, Dean Kramer, Alex Cobb, Zach Littell, David Peterson. They all pitched well here on Wednesday. If you guys want to scroll through the names and look at the matchups, but would you actually be looking to add and use any of these pitchers for next week?
So, Paul Blackburn, take notes. This is what you're supposed to do in a revenge game when you've recently been traded. Martin Perez. What was it? 5 1/3 innings, 8 strikeouts, 12 whiffs. Continues to throw the curveball as his primary pitch, as he's done in, I believe, all 3 pit starts since getting to the Padres. 21 strikeouts, 18 1/3 innings. I don't think Martin Perez is an ace suddenly, but I think he's useful in a 2-start week, especially in head-to-head points leagues where he's a sparp. The matchups make it a little iffier for Roto because, like, if he got bombed by the Twins and Mets next week and screwed up your ratios, I wouldn't be shocked. But I'm okay with using Martin Perez in points leagues as a sparp. I think Zach Littell in a points league is going to be pretty useful next week. Another sparp. Oakland and the Dodgers certainly don't love the Dodgers matchup, but I think in a points league only, Zach Littell as an RP will be worth starting.
You couldn't get Chris to say anything nice about Martin Perez.
Well, that
two,
was
2 years ago when he had his 2.89 ERA.
That was when people were demanding that we treat him like an ace. What happened in 2023? Do we want to talk about that? No.
No, I don't. I want to talk about how you're finally willing to say something nice about Martin
I'm all
Perez.
in.
And I do think he's the most attractive of this very unattractive group. Dean Kramer, this was his first good start in 7. So I'm pretty much over him.
Yeah. DJ
Hers, he's had 2 earned runs, or he's had his I wrote down numbers here, but I didn't write down the span of time. He's been good for a while now. I think this was his only quality start during that stretch, though, just because he hadn't been working deep into games. And
he's
noticed
pretty interesting, though. I think
so too.
Yeah, he started. He didn't have to rely on his fastball as much in this one. He threw a bunch more sliders, which isn't a very good pitch for him, but he obviously got a good result and got a bunch of whiffs on the changeup. It wasn't just the slider. I don't know. He just seems to be becoming a more complete pitcher. DJ Hurst does with each passing start. So I don't know that I'm ready to actually recommend him in fantasy. But I could see getting to that point.
He's got versus Colorado to kick off next week.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
He might end up making the cut because somebody has to for sleeper pitchers.
Yeah. 5 starts in the second half for DJ Hers, 3.04 ERA, 118 whip, 41 strikeouts over 31 and a third. The matchups next week, the Rockies on the road and at the Braves. So I could see it working out in a deeper league. Again, that is DJ Hers. Speaking of deeper leagues, I do have 2 other names here on this list. Grant Holmes turned in a strong start at the Giants, 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, had 14 whiffs on 95 pitches. I remain intrigued here. It looks like he has 3 legit good pitches. Grant Holmes, the fastball, the curve, and the slider. The problem, I don't know if he's going to stick around in the rotation once Ronaldo Lopez returns. And Davis Martin actually pitched pretty well against the Yankees, 5 2/3, 1 run allowed with 5 strikeouts there. Scott, anything to add on Davis Martin? And will Grant Holmes stick around once Lopez is back?
Yeah, that's the big question because Holmes is because Ronaldo Lopez is going to be back early next week, and there's nobody else to remove from that rotation unless they're ready to cut back on Spencer Schwellenbach's workload, which they're going to have to do eventually. He's been so good for them that they might not want to, or they might use Holmes to space out their other starters as they've been doing all year with Lopez and Chris Sale, and that would help Schwellenbach also. So I could see Holmes mixing in from time to time. Is that enough to keep him rostered? Not in most leagues, but I agree with you. I think there might be actual ability here. His swinging strike rate would be higher than any qualifier. Cole Reagans has the highest swinging strike rate among qualifiers, 14.8%. Grant Holmes is like a percentage point higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
That is the purest indication of talent in my mind.
Yeah, so we'll see if Grant Holmes could stick around, but I remain intrigued on him in deeper leagues. Let's get into the leftovers and start with pitchers. Cole Reagans turned in a gem at the Twins, 7 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, had 18 whiffs on 106 pitches. Ronel Blanco pitched well before leaving that start at Tampa Bay, 6 shutout innings with 4 strikeouts. And Jose Barrios had a great start at the Angels, 7 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts there. Chris, anything you'd like to add on Barrios, Ronel Blanco, and Cole Reagans?
Barrios, I don't know. I never have a good explanation for why he's pitching poorly when he does. I never have a good explanation for why he suddenly starts pitching well like he has the past couple of starts. So I don't know, man. Jose Barrios is an enigma to me. Cole Reagans' fastball velocity was up above 95 miles per hour for the first time in over a month. That's a good sign given the injury concern or the innings concerns we had about him and the declining velocity recently. Good to see that. He's remained still very good despite the innings concerns, but it was good to see.
Well, the performance had been dropping off in recent starts. It was 7 in a row where his velocity was down like 1.5 to 2 miles per hour across the board, and I was starting to get worried about Cole Reagans because the innings were mounting. He's already well past his career high. You wouldn't think the Royals would be in a position to shut him down as they're fighting for a playoff spot.
No, they can't.
But it's the concern level is high for Reagan's workload wise. But he did regain velocity, and I read on the team's official site that he made a mechanical adjustment to get that velocity back. So apparently his mechanics were off. It wasn't him taking something off intentionally. It wasn't necessarily him tiring, except that maybe tiring affected his mechanics. And he said everything feels great. It's starting to get back where it was. Blah, blah, blah. I was encouraged to hear that it was a mechanical thing for Reagans.
I'll just want to be clear. We're not talking about the Olympic breakdancer ray gun. This is Cole Reagans, the Kansas City Royals pitcher.
Yeah, I every time she's brought up, I think of Frank's sound effect.
Oh, do I have it loaded up? Let's see. I do. Yeah. All right, some hitting leftovers. Another day, another homer for Bobby Witt Jr., 2 for 4 with his 24th home run. In the second half, he's now batting .453 with a 1337 OPS. And of course, one day after we put Jake Cronenworth on the worryometer, he hits a home run on his birthday, 1 for 3 with his 15th homer, 3 RBI in that one. Gunnar Henderson has been in a bit of a power drought, but did go 1 for 3 with his 30th home run. Andres Jimenez had a big game, 3 for 4 with a double, 3 RBI, and his 20th steal. He's hit much better in August after a dreadful June and July. Jeremy Pena has homered in 3 of his last 4 games and is heating up in the second half. Pete Alonso, 4 for 4 with his 26th home run. And Juan Soto, like many hitters, enjoyed facing the White Sox this week. 1 for 2 with 3 walks and his 34th home run. He has 4 home runs over his past 2 games. Some bullpen updates for the Royals. Lucas Erceg recorded the final 4 outs for his 5th save and his 2nd with the Royals. Solid numbers all around, 3.05 ERA, a 1.06 whip. He's 22% rostered. And if you are looking for saves, I think it makes a bunch of sense to go out and add Lucas Erceg. For the Orioles, a 1-run lead. Yanir Cano pitched a clean 7th inning. Then the Orioles tacked on 2 more. And Cionel Perez got the 8th inning. Sir Anthony Dominguez in the 9th. With a 3-run lead, he walked 1, but picked up his 3rd save. And he is only 8% rostered. It kind of feels like, at least for the time being, this is going to be the recipe for the Orioles.
Mm-hmm. It does. It is beginning to seem that way. Back-to-back saves for Sir Anthony Dominguez. And prior to that, he worked the 9th inning twice with a 4-run lead. So, I don't know. I imagine they're still wanting Craig Kimbrell to find his way back into that role, but his last outing was pretty awful, and I'm losing confidence that he will.
For the Red Sox, Kenley Jansen was unavailable. Josh Winkowski got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He gave up a game-tying home run to Wyatt Langford. He took his first blown save. The Red Sox would eventually lose in extra innings. On the other side, for the Rangers, Kirby Yates pitched a clean 10th inning for his 21st save. Just wanted to point out, what a fantastic season for Kirby Yates. 1.02 ERA, .88 whip, 63 strikeouts over 44 and a third innings. For the Phillies, Carlos Estevez got the 9th inning with a 4-run lead. He struck out 2. I think pretty clearly the closer for the Phillies. For the Astros, Josh Hader got the 9th inning with the game tied. He pitched a clean inning. Then the Astros took a 1-run lead in the 10th. Josh Hader came back out, and he closed the game, pitched 2 perfect innings with 3 strikeouts, picked up his 5th win. And for the Brewers, Devin Williams pitched a clean 9th inning. He struck out 1 for his 2nd save of the season. To stream or not to stream on Thursday, we have a pretty light slate. If I had to choose, I think I would go Quintana against the A's and Cody Bradford against the Twins. I kind of like what Tobias Myers has been doing, but not against the Dodgers.
Not against the Dodgers. Yeah, I think Quintana's the clear best option here, and that's not saying very much.
Agreed.
On Friday, it does look a little bit better here. We have Arrighetti, who gets the White Sox, and he's still under 70% rostered. We have Jose Soriano against the Braves. Simeon Woods Richardson at Texas, I think is okay. There's Ryan Nelson at Tampa Bay.
This is probably Ryan Nelson's last turn, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's not a bad matchup. The Rays are the third lowest scoring team in baseball this season, and they strike out a bunch. So that one, he's throwing his fastball up in the zone a bunch, and it's made him a much more effective pitcher. I could see that one being pretty good. Arrigetti's clearly the top choice. He shouldn't be in the streaming conversation given the upside he's shown the last couple of starts. He should just be too rostered for this. And so Nelson, I could see Yadier Rodriguez having a good start against the Cubs. They're a beatable matchup. And Jose Soriano, I think we all like him a decent amount. So Friday has some options. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind Andrew Heaney against the Twins either, though. The ones you mentioned, especially Soriano, I'd like more. Guys, I started Spencer Arrighetti going against the White Sox. I started him over Aaron Nola in a league.
Wow.
I know.
Love that for you.
Who does Nola face?
I know. What?
Who does Aaron Nola face?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh, it looks like the Nationals on Friday. That's pretty cool.
That sounds about right. Yeah. He's just been so shaky lately, and Arrighetti's going against the White Sox, so it's very out of character for me to do something like that. We'll see if I hate myself in the morning.
Yeah, I got Arrighetti in AL labor, so let's see another great start from him.
Let's do it. We are going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.